All right.
It is. We're here.
All right.
How's it going, Paul?
Doing well. How are you, Reed?
Doing really well, man. We can pretend that we haven't been sitting here for the last 30 minutes
No.
checking in and catching up on this. But,
No.
dude, Thursday, August 6th, in 2 hours, music comes out. You know, that's the way it goes. Well, it's 2 hours because it's 7 o'clock here, but it'll be 9 p.m. there. So
Totally.
for more hours.
Yeah.
Thursday is always a big night for people in the business of releasing music. So I appreciate you taking the time to, come here and be part of the Music Business Club happy hour. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, Brendan? How you doing, brother?
Oh yeah, get over to the comments here. Brendan, how did I know you were going to be here, man? So Paul, while we're waiting on a couple people to chime in, just a few minutes ago, we were catching up a little bit, and I'm realizing I don't even know your music industry origin story as well as I thought. So you were telling me that you grew up in Hawaii, which is obviously a very, very tight-knit, thriving musical world of its own. Can you tell us a little bit about what brought you from there to here and how you got to be working with Law Records?
For sure, man. Well, long story is basically grew up in Hawaii, going to shows, going to, all the local punk shows, all the local reggae shows, and kind of doing that whole thing. Always wanting to be in a band and kind of be part of the process. I was always a record label rat. I would write to zines. I would write to, all the newsletters, all of those things I would get sent to my house. And so I was always kind of like really into the music industry as a whole, especially like mail order, doing the whole mail order thing by mail, you send money and that whole deal. Yeah, totally. Yeah, dude. So I did a lot of that. And then I came to San Diego for college. And while I was in San Diego, I started playing in a band called High Roots, which was a reggae band. We were all from Hawaii. The HI was High Roots, as Hawaii, like I said. And we were doing that whole thing. And we were making rounds. We played Cali Roots. I think it was 2012, I think it was. So it was like the third year that it had done. I think it was the first year that it had been 2 days, which was rad.
Yeah.
And so we had been doing that, and we've been doing the band thing for a while. And I was kind of always running the managerial side of, settle up at the end of the night, take the money, rent the van. Everything was kind of in my name. So I was kind of doing a lot of the business component with that whole thing. And so I kind of, was able to kind of use those strengths and transfer into the back end of the business side of the music industry. It was actually from, and I want to make sure that I shout him out. It was actually from a really great friend, a mentor, a guy named Neil Schroeder, who, music industry vet at Surf Dog Records and has done all kinds of things, managing Brian Setzer Orchestra and all kinds of stuff. But he brought me on. I was working at the San Diego State Research Foundation at the time, and I was, doing all kinds of stuff on the side, music industry related, and trying to learn graphic design, trying to do X, Y, and Z. And he hit me up and was like, we had stayed in touch a lot. And he was like, hey, are you still trying to get into the music industry on in another capacity, not just as an artist? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And so he brought me on at a label that he's at right now called Blue Lawn Records. That was circa like 5 years ago or so. So I was introduced to the label side of things about 5 years ago at Blue Lawn Records, indie label based out of LA, and was doing that for 4 years, and then kind of came to, came around to Law at around 2019, I think. Yeah, it'll be about 2 years in December of this year.
Cool. So you were the de facto manager of your own band.
For sure. If you ask the other members in the band, you might get different answers, but I like to think that I was doing it. Like me and probably Kevin were probably the main two. We're kind of the most business minded and, reaching out to contacts and doing that whole deal. And that was probably who it was. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, you and Kevin Bong.
Kevin Bong. Yes.
The man.
Yes. The man. Good.
Kevin, we love you.
Yeah. Kevin, you're the man, brother. Good buddy of mine. He was in the band called High Roots, and yeah, we were doing it, man. We played a bunch of shows. We did a nationwide tour with Natty Vibes. We did, a bunch of West Coast tours up and down the coast. Like, did the whole Vegas, San Francisco, LA kind of triangle from San Diego area. And we did that a lot. And it was great, man. I learned so much from that. And I just from that have, try to take that into running the label of being like, it's all about the artists. It's all about the guys that are going to get in the van and drive for 14 hours for $50. And how do you stay stoked? How do you continue to do that? And, that's what it comes down to. And so I kind of have that perspective from the label side, like the joke is always the suits are the label and, more or less we handle the business. So we are in some capacity, but like I've done the load-ins, for the load-ins, it's the long drives and all of that stuff.
Yeah,
so,
and the suit for loading in is much like the business suit.
For sure.
For the label anyway.
Totally. Our business suit is that. So, so I had that perspective and, was able to do that. And the funny story about with Law was that High Roots actually had a meeting with Law probably around 2012, maybe 2011 about possibly signing with Law. And we had a couple meetings with them and, whatever, things didn't happen and it didn't work out. But I had kept in touch with the general manager at the time, a guy named Mark Lay, another person I owe thanks, great debt of gratitude, who reached out to me with the position when it came available. I kept in touch with him. When I got to this other label, I was like, hey, like, how are things on the label side going with you? We kept in touch and kind of talked shop from, that moment onward. And then when it came time where, there was going to be some changes at Law, he reached out. And so it kind of came full circle where High Roots, this band that we had started and nurtured and was our baby, kind of has led and opened the door. And then even more so, that High Roots goes back to Hawaii with, we all were from Hawaii and we, some of us had met in Hawaii. So it was this great connection, man. And then having Pepper be from Hawaii, it's wild. It's been great.
Yeah, the Hawaii thing is such a deep well in and of itself. Tell us about your shirt, actually. We were just talking about that a few minutes ago.
Yeah. Soul Time in Hawaii. So shout out Roger Bong, K-Bong's, who's running Aloha Got Soul label out in Hawaii, in which they curate these awesome releases where, he's finding all these old releases that were done in Hawaii from musicians that are from Hawaii. He's re-releasing them and, and putting it in his own spin in a 21st century model, which is really rad. And he's, if you get an opportunity, check him out on Bandcamp. They have a bunch of crazy releases and it's all curated and it's really like, it reminds me of the old school label of like when you're into a label and the labels are curating the scene for you and this niche, and much like what we're trying to do at Law as well too, but he's doing it a great job in Hawaii, and it's man, it's awesome. Roger's the man too, nonetheless. So I had to give some love to Roger.
Yeah, it's such a small world. Just last weekend on the Reggae Pod Clash, we had Les and Zion Thompson, Les drummer, Ludiato and Zion Thompson. Yeah. And just as we were kind of getting that episode together, kind of realized it's like, man, we could do a whole series just on Hawaiian music. And obviously that's what Roger is doing with Aloha Got Soul. And
totally, man. And you absolutely could. Because I mean, there's like so many from like the Hawaiian bands that got big and they were huge in Hawaii, and then they come over and they tour the mainland every now and then, and their shows are massive, and there's a huge following, and then from everything that's new that's coming out of Hawaii right now, which is just there's tons going on. So
there's insane music coming out of Hawaii,
which is really cool to see it kind of getting its time, because there's so much talent there, and there's so many artists that are on the grind out there that are doing it. So it's cool to see.
Cool to see growing. Well, hey, there's some people showing up. Looks like there's some Milburys popping up in the comments.
No.
So I'm gonna exit the screen here in a few minutes. But speaking of music coming out, there's obviously a project that you and I have had the pleasure of working on, the house that Bradley built. Me, just because I have a song coming out with the movement, so I've been helping that. But this is a project that I remember you bringing to me several months ago, and such a cool project that Law Records is putting out in support of the Noel Foundation. Can I exit the screen and have you just kind of tell us a little bit more about that project, and we'll get to the fun stuff? Absolutely, man. Thanks, Reed. All right. Right on. Okay. What's up, guys? So yeah, a little about the house that Bradley built. Is just this
mind-blowing project that I've been able to have the pleasure of being a part of. I met Kelly Knoll and the Knoll Family Foundation team up at Cali Roots. I think it was last year around May, and I was talking to them about the story and what they're trying to do. And at the time, I was like, I want to be involved. I would love to see what Law can do to help. And at the time, Pepper had a new album that was coming out in June. Well, we had all kinds of releases. We had Through the Roots on, I think, June 8th. And then we had Pepper Local Motion on June 28th. So I was like, listen, I'm drowning right now. And when I surface, I would love to figure out what we can do to help, to get involved with the Knoll family and to just help what they're doing, which, if you're not familiar with what the Knoll Family Foundation is doing, they're trying to build a inpatient rehab center located in Southern Orange, California, where it will be a treatment center for those who have an opioid addiction in the music industry. And the idea, I think, Kelly, if you're watching, hopefully I'm articulating it appropriately, but the idea being, there's a massive opioid epidemic going on in the US, and musicians as a whole have a platform to influence and inspire, and that by starting with musicians and trying to help them get sober and help them find a way out, that can then trickle down and influence and help others become, get on the path of sobriety and get towards getting to a better place. And so they're working to build Bradley's House, which was named after Brad Knoll, the lead singer of Sublime. And so we're raising money to get this treatment center built. And so after about Cali Roots happened, a couple months later, got back in touch with Kelly and was like, hey, I think we're at a place where we can get involved. And I had this idea where I was like, hey, what if we were able to get, the Pepper guys to do a song, to do a track? I'm sure we could get some other bands on Law to do a song, and we could just, we could put it out. We could have it all go, to you guys and raise money for you guys. So it could not only be something for awareness, but it would be an ongoing source of revenue for the foundation as money continues to flow in as people digitally stream music. And from that, just this incredible response, as we started to peel back, we started to realize the network that the Pepper world has, and Kelly and the Knoll family. And we started asking people to be involved, and we started telling them about what they're doing. And we were overwhelmed with the amount of support that people wanted to give and be a part of. So, this first part that is coming out on September 4th is the first wave of sorts. And it's just an amazing project that I just feel honored and privileged to be a part of. Sublime and Brad Knoll, personally, have just been an incredible inspiration for me and so many others. How many artists are involved in the House That Bradley Built album? So it's a great question, Reed. So on this first iteration, there is 24 artists that have all donated their time and talents, and the songs which they curate. Some of the songs we curated, we approached bands and asked if bands would be willing to do a specific song. Some of the songs we reached out to bands and said, hey, would you be interested in being a part? And they said, oh, I got to do this song. And so it was kind of a mixed bag on deciding on who did what song. But 24 songs coming out September 4th. And again, profits from everything from the vinyl, the t-shirts, the posters, the digital streaming is going to the Knoll Family Foundation to help get Bradley's house built. And it's an honor to be a part of. And as I've been working on this project and looking at the credits for the songs, I've been diving in, and I didn't know KRS-One had songwriting credits on this song, or I didn't know, different people that Roz MG wrote. Marshall Goodman wrote specific tracks as a songwriter. And it's just been so fun to look into the history of Sublime and all the, experiences that I've had with them, and then seeing this entire scene and community that that was not, Brad didn't create the reggae scene, but he took it to a whole level, especially in the California reggae scene, and especially with the mainstream success that they had. He brought it on a much larger platform that has just been incredible, and it's been awesome to be a part of. So yeah. What's up, Jay? Thank you for the great cause. Thanks, man. What's up, Norman? Thanks, brother. And yeah, if you guys got any questions on here, man, hit me up. I'm, Life in General, Law Records, the comp. We can go down the politics hole if we need to, just kidding. Let's keep it positive. But yeah, to go back to the comp, there will be a phase 2 of sorts. That will be, hopefully I'm not getting too far ahead of myself, that will be further down the line. So, if you felt like some songs were missing or some artists were missing, there's more to come. What's up, Taylor Guitars? Thanks for all the love, Taylor. If you had a song you personally could do for the comp, what would you cover? Well, if I could do one, and if I had vocals that were worthy enough to be on a comp, I've always loved Boss DJ. I always felt like that was one of my favorite songs that Brad did. And then also to hear the different versions that came out on various, there was the one on the acoustic album. There was the one on the Robin the Hood. They were slightly different. We changed some words around here and there. That one was always a fun one. I would say that one and or KRS-One would be great. And by the way, the one Jim Lindbergh of Pennywise did Boss DJ, and his version is awesome. So Aaron Talley, what's up? So it's my cousin somewhere wound as the lead tour account for Tom Petty and has since been on demand for the likes of Billy Idol. What is your recommendation for quickest entry into the music industry for an accountant / me? That's interesting. I don't have as much experience on the tour accounting side, but I would say it's an interesting question people ask about the music industry and how to get in there and what's the best path in. And I think the way you have to look at the music industry is everybody in the industry, I think, has so much going on. And there's so much action from releases to band signings to changes of everything going on. And so I think you have to approach it as like, how can you provide value for someone with something that that they might not be thinking about? So like if there are, if there's a specific people that you think you would be interested in working for, finding the contact information, laying out what you can do and what you think would be a way that would be helpful for where they're at. And just, I think, trying to show value in some capacity always goes a long way, especially when you're drowning in things going on, and you can always use the help. When someone reaches out and says, hey, if you do X, Y, and Z, I really think that this could free up A, B, and C, and da, 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 da. And I think that's always a great way, introing to people. Instead of just asking for a job or asking for an opportunity, I think if you can present what you can do and what you can bring to the table, I think people are a lot more likely to respond. And then obviously just, being easy to work with and, being good at what you do goes a long way. So, Reed, you had another one in there. How have you seen COVID change the landscape of releasing music, if at all? Which is a rad question. And I think one of the coolest parts about working in the music industry is definitely watching everything change every day. And as we kind of wake up, you see a different headline. TikTok, is it going to get banned? Is it still a thing? Is it not? Instagram, brought out their version of TikTok. Like, just the music industry itself changes so rapidly. And then you add in a global pandemic into the things, and it makes things just, it makes things difficult. But I would say the landscape of releasing music has changed in the sense of when the pandemic first started, I think everybody was a little gun shy about wanting to hold off and see what happened. I don't think we were really aware of how long things were going to last. And now seeing that they're definitely lasting a lot longer than we all would hope to be. It looks like this is a new norm that we're going to have to adapt to. So I think when it first started, we were kind of pausing. We actually had like a number of releases scheduled for kind of Q3 and Q4 of this year that we have kind of pushed back into the beginning of next year, but still trying to pivot and still having content come out. So still wanting to make sure that we are putting something in front of fans for artists, while trying to do it in a way that is interesting without touring. Because I mean, I think the biggest driver for music has been the touring component, from festivals and even just playing shows, meeting people face to face and getting that personal connection to get them inspired and want to be a part of your tribe and listen to your music. With that gone away, now the releases have to be a lot more strategic, and you actually have to take into account the fact that you're not going to be able to have that face-to-face interaction. So how can you get creative? How can you make an experience like a touring or that face-to-face connection digitally? Which I'm glad these kinds of things that you guys have been doing with Music Business Club has happened, because we're bridging that gap between not being able to see everybody on a regular basis. And I can't wait for festivals and shows to come back. Matt Milbury, who's that guy? Matt Milbury, good guy. Love you, brother. What track or tracks are your favorite on the comp? One of my favorites is one that came out last week, which was the Mad Caddies version of New Song. I felt like their take and their approach on that song was just awesome. New Song had always been one of my favorites in Sublime, and it was like kind of a deep cut, like track 16 or so, I think, on 40 Ounces. And that was always one of my favorites. And then I felt like Mad Caddies really took that song and put their own twist on it. And I felt like that one is definitely one of my favorites. The long answer though is that all the songs on the comp are amazing. And when we've had the strategy of wanting to roll out songs every Friday leading up to Street Date, and it's hard to pick and it's hard to choose, but all the songs that are coming out are amazing. The Von Elias that's coming out, the Ballad of Johnny Butt, which was a Secret Hate song originally that Sublime covered, and now Von is covering it, is her version, which was produced by Johnny Cosmic as well too, is just amazing. It's got this Latin groove to it, and it's kind of she did a post today that Yasad had coined it the James Bond Latin version of the Ballad of Johnny Butt, which it really, it's a great way to coin it. But that's a great version. That's one of my those two are my favorites. Jim Lindbergh's version of Boss DJ is awesome. Johnny Cosmic's version of 40 Ounces is great. G Love, I have to say, knocked it out of the park with April 29th. That one is just incredible. And Yasad threw down some drums. Yasad Williams of Pepper threw down some drums on that song, and that one's a great one as well. But all of them are fantastic. Like, we're going to roll out basically 12 songs of the 24 prior to release. So we're going to have rolled out about half the album. And that other half that doesn't come out is just as strong, if not stronger. Like, it's crazy. So I'm so excited for everybody to hear it. And, just the momentum behind it has been awesome. And the cause that it goes for is even greater, which is rad. And the music is just fantastic. Have I said that enough already? I'm not sure yet. Brendan, how do you balance your personal life with the heavy demands of working for a label? Dude, that is a constant influx thing, man. And it's hard, to say the least. I think the most important thing is I have an incredible partner, Michelle, my wife, who supports me, and is proud of me and encourages me to go out and do as many things as I can. So that is a huge component to having, just the support here at the house, especially since we've all been quarantined together for as long as we have. But I think for me, personal life, one of the cool things about working with Law and working in the music industry is, like, prior to working in the music industry, I was always working jobs to be able to to basically try to figure out my way to make a living in the music industry. And so my personal life was always building beyond trying to work in music. And so when I started to get involved in the music industry outside of being an artist and on the label side of things, you know, my personal life is music. And so a large component of, you know, running a label and, you know, doing those kinds of things is kind of things that I was already doing and already a part of. I've always been going to shows when they come around. I'm always looking at, you know, how are bands, how are they releasing music? What are they doing? What is this label doing versus that? So in many ways, my personal life and work life are very similar. So there's not like a huge divergence in that capacity, but like I definitely have to turn off my phone and computer sometimes because I will continue to work straight through the night or get up early to continue doing it. And I need to make sure that I give enough time for my kids and my wife as well, who's very supportive, as I said. But that's a constant balance, man. You got to figure it out, and you got to figure out what you know, what makes you, however you're doing it, what can make you be successful. So like if what you're doing is working, then there it is. And if it's not, then finding that balance of changing gears. For me, what I've had to do is get up early. I've been getting up at like 4:30, 5:30, you know, when I can, to try to get work done, you know, during quarantine prior to the kids getting up. Looking up down here, how does a normal album marketing budget get split up? YouTube versus Facebook, Instagram versus AdWords versus retail. I think you have to go into every album marketing campaign differently. You have to look at, you know, what are the strengths and weaknesses with, you know, where are the supporters, are the past supporters with bands? Are they a retail band? You know, like a band like Pepper, who obviously owns Law Records, they have a great presence in retail, and retail has always been a big supporter and have always gotten behind Pepper. And so obviously with them, you know, retail is always a key part of the strategy. Certainly, like as time has gone on, retail has shifted, and it's not the focus, and digital is the focus kind of moving forward, because that's just, you see where the largest amount of consumption is going on with music. I think you have to split everything up as on an ad hoc basis, and I know that's kind of a cop out to that answer, but with regards to YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, AdWords, I think you have to have a healthy budget with all of that. You know, someone that I want to shout out, my man Neil Schroeder, I mentioned him earlier, who has just been a great mentor, and you know, he someone I can call upon at any time to, you know, hey, what do you think about this? And da-da-da. He always said to me, you know, if you're going to put money into something like recording an album or making a music video, and if a music video costs, you know, $2,000 or $3,000, or even if you get a bro deal and you can get it for $500, you better put money behind it to promote it, because the reality is, you know, there's so much noise, there's so much attention that is being split up and carved up these days, that if you're not putting money behind paid promotion, like you're doing yourself a favor. Because I think, you know, what do they say about 1 to 3% of your social media following or so, if you're getting great engagement, is being reached when you post on socials, you know? So you're not reaching people if you're just posting on socials and you're trying to use that as a method to get the word out. I think you have to commit. If you're gonna commit, you know, whatever your budget is, if it's a $5,000 to record an album, or you know, or less, whatever it is, you need to commit a sizable chunk to that, just to the advertising, because it's going to get lost if you don't. And honestly, like, I think Facebook and Instagram are crucial. YouTube is probably one that is overlooked, and is definitely something that is very valuable, that I think people are not utilizing as much. One, they have in-stream ads where if somebody doesn't watch a certain component of your ad or take an action, so it's something like 30 seconds of an ad or click on an ad, you don't get charged for that click when you're advertising on YouTube. and there's a much smaller pool of people that are actually advertising on YouTube. So you end up paying much less per click and per view, per impression on YouTube. Now, I get there's a lot of different dynamics between advertising on a video platform that, versus somebody's actively scrolling on their screen. But I think that if you can hone in on your targeting on YouTube, that there's something there that you could really take advantage of and get some cost-effective advertising. Addison Tab says content. Yes, content is key. And it's funny because as we say that, I feel like one of the things that are interesting, and you can let me know in the comments if I'm onto anything, but I think that one of the dynamics that I think is interesting is I don't know if we're going to get to a point with social media where we get a backlash. I think Facebook is having its own issues right now, but I almost wonder if, we certainly, the age of the rock star and the rock star being this person that's shrouded in mystery and you don't know much about them is obviously over, with social media that we have. And we now know everything that people are doing up to almost real-time updates. But I almost wonder if we're going to want to go back to that in some capacity, in that if there's a tendency to overexpose ourselves. And I think that with COVID, that's something that we all have to consider right now. When you play a live show, bands have what's called a radius clause. And, basically that means when you play a market, you can't play somewhere between 60 to 90 miles around that city, because you don't want to take away from other markets that might come out to see you play. And, now we have these live streams anyone in the world can watch. So if a band is going to do a live stream, now the radius clause is the world. So now you can't, you potentially couldn't do a show as often, and so you have to play less. And so I almost wonder if that same idea is going to carry over into social media. I don't know. I personally feel like there is some fun about having there be mystery, but at the same time, as a fan myself, I definitely love diving in further to artists. So, I think there's going to be that balance where I think artists, give a lot to their fans and are accessible, but then at the same time, having some mystery as part of it, I think goes a long way as well. So let's see, any other questions we got on here? All right, nothing. All right, well, I'm going to any thoughts on Amazon's lead in the world of voice Alexa for music streaming? Oh, man. I think that's going to be a big thing. And, I think you definitely, I think that definitely with the voice activation thing, people are, hey, thanks, Brendan. Family's good, brother. The voice activation with Alexa, I think that is definitely something that everyone's going to have to be a part of, and you're going to want to get programmed in there to be able to have your music played, Alexa play X, Y, and Z. I am a little weary of that, simply on the privacy concerns of that. That's a whole nother Edward Snowden conversation that, we can go down if everyone wants to. But, so I honestly have not ventured into that as far as I should. I do know that it's a massive thing and that we definitely need to be a part of it. Yeah, it's a wild world. That's a wild world with that one. All right. If any questions come in, I'll grab them. If not, I will just do shameless plugs from here on out, man. So like Reed said earlier, we got in about 5 hours, 4.5 hours, Von Aaliyah's The Ballad of Johnny Butt, and The Movement's Get Out, which is a killer version. Josh from The Movement just crushed that one. That one was always one of my favorite songs too. It was first I heard it was on Stories, Tales, Lies, Exaggerations, which was a documentary that Josh Fishel did, I think, many, many years ago. But then came out on Secondhand Smoke on the 97 release, I believe. But that one's coming out. His version is just absolutely amazing. And, we're all big fans of The Movement and what they do. And Josh's vocals on that are just killer. So that drops in about 5 hours. So make sure you go and pre-save it. If you pre-save through our link in Law Records bio, that you can win their new album, which is Ways of the World on LP. which was produced by Johnny Cosmic, and it's just a fantastic album if you haven't heard that one. And then at the same time, you can pre-save Vonalia's track, which is, and you can, for that one, you can win a Vonalia t-shirt, which is a killer t-shirt nonetheless. And then again, the full album comes out September 4th. And it's just stocked with hits after hits. Like I'm so excited to share it with the world. It's one of those projects that like I can't stop smiling about. You know, I listen to it all the time, and then when I take a step back from it to listen to new music, I go back to it, and I just am like blown away the amount of work and that the amount of attention that bands put into the project. What's up, Yasad? The ultimate hammer himself, Yasad Williams. How you doing, Yee? If you don't know, Yasad is the drummer, the all-time hammer of Pepper and Law Records. It's been a pleasure working with Yasad and all the guys at Pepper at Law Records, and who are just awesome to be a part of and associated with. And you know, it's an honor and a privilege to be working with them as well. What's up? Andrew? What's up, man? How you doing? Go Pods! You guys stoked on baseball being back or what? It's kind of weird seeing the fans in the background, but I still dig it. Yeah, and then on August 15th, we have a Pepper live stream coming up. It'll be live streaming from the Belly Up Tavern in Solana Beach. That's going to be really rad. We've got a lot. It's called Pepper and Friends, so we have a lot of special guests that we haven't announced yet that are going to be a part of that night, hosted by Golden State Greens, the Belly Up, Taylor Guitars, and Kala Music, Kala Brand Ukuleles, you know. So that'll be a great night. That will be August 15th. Brendan says, do you as an artist still has aspirations of creating and releasing music at some point? Yeah. Thank you for asking that. Absolutely, man. You know, that's definitely one of the things that I miss the most, playing live. And, you know, as much fun as I like being home all the time, you know, going out and driving with your friends in a van were some of the most fun times that I've ever had. And, you know, playing a show is still the nerves that you get, and then the energy that you receive back from people is, I definitely miss that component for sure of playing. But I would love to, I work on music still at the house. You know, I have two daughters. One is 4 or turning 4 in a couple weeks, and the other is a year and a half. And so it's hard to work on music at the moment, I guess, is basically all I'm saying. So I'm trying to find the time for that. But yes, I absolutely have aspirations, and you know, maybe Law will be cool enough to put it out when I do. You know, I don't know. No, it's kidding. I know a guy there though, so we'll have to ask him. Yeah. It's funny laughing at your own jokes when no one is in the room. You know. Yeah. Thanks. Now the Radius Clause is the world. Yes, it's true, man, and it's unfortunate because you know, COVID and you know, the music industry has squeezed artists as hard, has just continued to squeeze artists. And, you know, with Law and, you know, working with the Pepper guys and working at Law, like, I think probably one of our focuses is wanting to elevate the bands. Every band that comes through is family, and wanting to elevate them as much as possible. And, you know, historically, a label has always been, we're going to take the music, the masters, if you will, and we're going to exploit the masters, and that's going to kind of, you know, be the extent of that. We kind of want to take a 360 approach, and we want to help, you know, bands get to each level, whether it be management, whether it be different agents, whether it be connecting them with, you know, different producers or different songwriters, and really trying to look at each band and where can we help, where can we add value, and help and elevate them. And, you know, especially in COVID, it's like, you know, trying to figure out what can we do to bring value now that their major source of revenue, income source, which, you know, typically has been touring, has gone away. And so we're trying, always looking at things to do to help the artists, you know, immediately. You know, one of the things that I think it's hard that artists are constantly, you know, streaming put a squeeze on artists and songwriters in general. And then COVID added another squeeze, and it's hard, not just music artists, but artists, you know, artists, entertainers, you know, comedians, people that make a living, you know, based on the human interaction and the human connection that exists, it sucks, because if you think of the world without any sort of arts, it sucks, and the fact that we as a world have not valued art in that capacity is something that I hope that we can be a part of changing the conversation about, and really adding value, because the art, the music, I don't know about you guys, but for me, music has been what has kept me sane through COVID. I'm, with bands that are releasing music, I'm more hungry than ever to see bands putting out music now and seeing what they're working on, and how are they being creative? What are they doing? So I've been hungrier than ever, which I'm trying to make sure that, I'm supporting artists as much as I can, especially during this time as well too, because it's so important. We can't let bands go away and fall through the cracks during this time, and I really hope that the Independent Stages Act can go through to help support the independent art, the independent venues that are hurting right now, that haven't been able to have any sort of any sort of performances in their place right now is tough. So hopefully Congress can help step up with that in that capacity, but I'm not holding my fingers or holding my breath on that one. How closely do you pay attention to data from streaming services when considering working with an artist? And what streaming services data points stats carry the most weight? That's a great question, Jay. We definitely live in a data-driven world, and too much so, I would say, because I think data doesn't always tell the whole story. In many ways, there are ways to, where somebody, for instance, listeners on Spotify to followers, you can have a bunch of Spotify listeners. If a song got on a playlist, that's great, but the listening might be passive listening versus someone that went out and wanted to go find this band and listen to them and listen to their new album over and over. So numbers in the data in the music industry can be deceiving. So I think us as Law Records, data is definitely crucial. Like, you definitely want to see what kind of numbers bands are doing, in the sense of where are their strongest markets, where how are songs reacting, on a on a follower base to stream count, but it's not the only thing. I mean, I would be lying if I would say that it's not a factor, but it's not the only factor, and it's not the main factor. The main factor, I think, always and will always be the case, is the music, and what are bands and the creative process that people are putting together. Myself, Yasad, Kaleo, Brett, we're all just rabid music fans first and foremost. So if somebody has zero streaming, but the music is amazing, there's something to work with there, and there's something to build and to grow. And so I think that's the key. The first and foremost is the creation product. Are you telling a story? Is this music going to connect with people? Is it something that is timely? Is it necessary? Almost. Is it just, are you regurgitating what has already been said? If so, then try again. Let's work on it some more. That doesn't, someone, I don't know who said it, but someone said, great writers are really just rewriters. They rewrite things over and over. The first iteration is never the final iteration. So first and foremost, it's the music, and what I love about Law and the creative driver here is always about that, and wanting to put out something that is meaningful, and that can just add to the world in some capacity. So that is the main driver, but data is definitely a big thing. And I mean, we could have an entire talk just about data and breaking the different data points down of the markets that they're stronger in, and with you're strongest in a certain market, well, then maybe you want to target your ad spends in those particular markets. Pandora, I don't know if how familiar you guys are with, I don't even know how many people are listening, if there's a lot of people watching or whatnot, but Pandora's backend is the AMP platform. Pandora in general is just an incredible platform for artists to connect with their fans, but the AMP platform, which is the backend, which I think stands for the Artist Music Platform, allows you to geo-target personal messages before a song plays, after a song plays, and it's completely free. So you can dive into the analytics and then use the data points to then drive, touring options. If you see one market is strongest than the other, then obviously that's where you're going to want to go. But I think the thing that we have to be weary of is, like, while we all make up data points and numbers, like, music is not data. Music is an experience, and it exists. Like, the live experience is something that's special. It's magical. It's something that you can never recreate. And I think the same goes for recorded music as well. A lot of times when bands, there's something about that capturing, it was that band, that early capture at that time that they did, recorded it in this studio at this time and there's something about that recording, and that they go 20 years later and try to re-record the same thing, and it doesn't match up. And so I think, you're, as Yasad always says, you're catching lightning in a bottle with music. And so the data is definitely important, but I would be, don't get caught up too much in the data. It's definitely something to pay attention to, but I think there's too much right now. Honestly, there's so much to be aware of, where if you get caught up in it, it can stunt your ability to be creative or to take steps forwards in other directions. Because if you're just, I'm trying to build this platform, I'm building this platform, it can be overwhelming where you don't do anything at all. And that's certainly the thing that you don't want to do. A smart man named Adam Gross, shout out Adam from Ineffable, said, you don't want to have perfect be the enemy of great. I think he said that, or a lot of people have said that actually, but I heard him say it for sure. Where you don't want to overthink something into inaction, and you want to make sure that you're always taking a step forward. As an artist, you perfect an album and you want it to come out immediately. Well, let's wait a second. Let's make sure the setup is right. Let's make sure that this song has the appropriate amount of marketing. Let's make sure that the song is at the right time, and that's the right vibe even. Little tangent there, went down that form. Addison says, when forming a label, what are you looking for in artists? Is it better to stay in the same genre or diversify? I think you're talking as like a label, as a label whole in general. Ultimately, I think it comes down to what you envision as what is the vision, and what is the goal, and where do you want to see a label go? One of my favorite labels that I grew up on is Fat Records. Fat Mike, lead singer of NoFX, started Fat Records. Every band that you hear on there, you almost know you're going to like, because it has a Fat Records sound to it. There is a Fat Records sound. And not that they don't put things out that are not wide genre speaking, but there's a sound and you know what it is, and you really like it. And that's worked really well for them. And then, there's other labels that have tried to do other things. I think it kind of depends on what you want to do, and what kind of mark, so to speak, you make on the world. I personally think I'm just such a fan of so much different kinds of music that why try to stay in one lane? I think you want to be able to position yourself where you can do all kinds of things that make sense. And I think that's what's one of the really cool things about Law in general, is that we have a really strong connection to the reggae scene, and then there's like a ska scene, there's like a punk scene, and there's a hip hop scene that we can find lanes into where it makes sense. So personally, I think to go as wide as possible is better, to not limit yourself, but it also is ultimately like, what does your label mean, and what do you want it to be? Sometimes a label is curating a sound, and that's what you do, and you hone in on that, and that's what it is. And all are great ways to do the same thing. There's no right or wrong answer in that regard. I think the way that you have to be successful, though, is to have a vision of what you want to do and to stick to that vision. So hope that answered it. What else we got here? Matt Milbury, you got any other ones? Joe Milbury said I look like Clark Gable. Yeah. Clark is a reference to National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Wes Maharis, should you as a new artist release full-length album or do singles? I think, what's up, Wes? And hey, much love, man. I didn't even realize that was you. Much love, brother Wes, who I think you have just had a new single come out, right? I think each strategy needs to look at as a long-term. There's a saying that each release is a build for the next release. And while that is, kind of hard for artists to hear, each thing that you do sets up for the next thing that you're going to do. So where you're at in your career, I think is what you need to look at. I think given the state that we're in, with meaning like the over amount of digital, I think singles are the way to go until you have a body of work that makes sense to package it. And again, though, that all depends on what you're doing and where you're at in your career. But on the flip side, if you're building, I think you have to think about it as the long term. And each, like now, I think, I don't know if you guys saw, but CEO of Spotify said, artists can't get used to releasing music every 3 to 4 years. And some people were really bummed on that. And some people, I think you'd be lying to think that you could stay relevant in a 2020 world by releasing music every 3 to 4 years, unless you're, Green Day or something, or already established. I think we have to adopt a new paradigm of constantly dripping content, but while doing so in a way that makes sense, that's interesting, that is strategic, and that has purpose behind it. So while I would say it depends, is the short answer, Wes. I would lean towards singles until you have a full body, or if you have multiple full bodies, then a full album makes sense. I'm kind of old school in the sense I like the full body of work, that the album, from listening to it start to finish. I love seeing bands that, there's a theme to it. The songs start to finish, they make sense. So I'm old school in the sense of I like to put on an album and listen to an entire album. The flip side is that that's just not how music is consumed in 2020 on a mass basis. Definitely people still listen to albums completely, but if you're trying to bring somebody new into the tent, which is kind of how I refer to it, you're trying to bring people into your world and into your tent. I think you have to do so in much more bite-sized components, unfortunately, because of the amount of noise, the amount of content that exists. You're competing against so many different things. I mean, if you look at like social media platforms, everything is going to a smaller, it was the minute video, and then it's 30 seconds, and then it's 15, and now it's 5, and it's our attention spans are getting smaller. So you're having to figure out a way to make yourself stand out. And I think to do so, you got to do it in a single. Because I don't know about you, but like even when it's in an article, sometimes if I'm reading an article on a website, if that thing is too long, I'm like, I'm going to come back to this later. I think there's that same kind of view that people have when they hear music, and if they have an album and they're not in a position to listen to an album all the way through, I think people might stay away. And that's the last thing you want to do. You don't want to put up any roadblocks or impediments to somebody being able to come into your tent and want to listen. So I think singles are definitely the way to go. Full albums are also the way to go. How it plays into the strategy is where you kind of want to look at it and see what makes the most sense. Yeah. Is that a good answer there, Wes? Congratulations on the new baby and the engagement too, brother. Yee, love you, brother. Thank you again for the opportunity, man, to be here, man. Yee and Kaleo and Brett are just the raddest dudes to work for and with and be a part of. And, as a Pepper fan, growing up. And shout out too, I should say, Pepper played my senior year high school grad party on Oahu. So it's full circle being here, working with these guys. Are definitely like the coolest guys in the business. And I think if there's anything that I've learned a lot working with them. But one of the most important things I think working with them is that they've built relationships with people over the years that they've been around, where people want to work with them because they're great people and they're fun to work with, they're fun to be around, and they're genuine. And I think that that is something that takes you places that marketing, just the song may not take bands. It's an integral part of music, is just wanting to have that organic support where people want to help, they want to be a part. And I've just seen it firsthand working the Locomotion album, seeing people come out of the woodworks from connections from various places where they just want to help the guys so much because they're just such great guys. So thank you, Yi. I appreciate it, brother. Thank you, guys. Got any other questions in there? I'm a talker, as you can see, so keep them coming, man. But if not, I've got some notes here, so I'm gonna just continue to go down the list here. And one of the main things, if there are, Brendan, if you're still watching, and Jay, if you're watching, if there are, other artists watching, I think one of the most important things that you got to do in this world, and one of the focuses that I've wanted to do with that law, is to own the data, meaning, you are able to contact somebody when you have something to tell them. Like, as I mentioned earlier with social media, you maybe reach 1%, 1 to 3% of your of people that follow you, and that's if you're doing something right, if you have regular engagement. Otherwise, there's a paywall to reach them. And not only that, like, as you build your presence on specific platforms, you then are building it for other people to pay into and market to. It's a trip. You don't own your data. And I think the most important thing is to try to bring people into your world to where you can freely and easily get to them at a later time. And as archaic as it sounds, email is still the best way to go. Everybody has to have an email to sign up for any sort of platform, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, anything. You have to have an email address. And that is still probably one of the best ways to reach fans, and really is the lifeblood of independent artists, to grow that email list and to be able to connect with your fans. Obviously on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, you have followers, but how often are you able to reach them? How often are you able to engage with them? Can you create a connection with them, through those platforms? Sometimes, yes. Email, I think, is a crucial part of that platform, of the strategy that needs to exist. I think if you could get somebody's cell phone number, that would be even better. And just if you can text with people and go old school, like, street team style, I think that would be even better. But email is the way, is still the way, I think, that bands are overlooking. It's free to build, and if you can come up with something that's interesting to continue to build the email list, that can do half the marketing for you when you have something new to tell people. And I think people overlook that. So if there are artists watching, I would definitely make sure to keep an eye on that and to see what you're doing. What is your email strategy? Is there a funnel campaign? Is there, I'm giving something away, whether it be a free download or a free tutorial or something, even a video message like this that you can talk to somebody that you can only get via email. Or it's just, you write a blog to your email list and you want people, and that's something that people get that they don't get elsewhere. But you have to have that kind of strategy to bring people into your world, to be able to then, follow up with them on a regular basis. And then that's part one. And then part two is then, what are you doing on the follow-ups? How are you engaging your email list? What are you giving them that's exclusive so that you can, keep them excited, keep them engaged, keep them wanting to open emails from you when you send them? Because if the last thing people want to do when you do get emails is just, have an offer of buy something, I think that a lot of times that's, never a good look either. You want to build that connection, especially now with touring being down. So how does an artist get on Law's radar in general? What are some of the things you look for in a new act? Right on. Well, I mean, there's a bunch of ways. You can email us, info@law-records.com. We all read emails. You can even email me, paul@law-records.com, and I'll read the email and try to respond the best that I can. So that's definitely one way you could reach out. I think the misnomer, not the misnomer, but one of the things that I think labels and managers and agents, it's, you want to get behind something that's in motion. And so I think when you are a band and you want to be able to do things yourself, you need to learn how to put together a string of shows, or how to get onto certain bills, or how to release music in some capacity. Like, there's a certain indie component, I think, that needs to exist within all bands. And labels and agents and managers definitely want to get behind things that are in motion, or that where you're going to come and you're going to bring value. I think it's hard to get behind things that someone has never, there's not been any music released before, there's no tour history, there's no social media presence. That's a hard thing to do, to develop. That's not to say something that we wouldn't get behind, because again, it comes back to the music. If the music is compelling, and the message is there, and the creativity and the drive is there, then that's definitely something that we'll be part of and would love to be a part of. But I think the main thing that I want to see, that I think labels in general want to see, is the ethic, and like what are bands doing on their own, to see, because the reality is, we are an indie label, we're not a major label, like Sony or Warner, where you sign to a major label and instantly your life changes. Your life definitely will change when you sign to Law Records, but there's still a lot of work to be done. Like, if you sign an artist deal, it doesn't mean that you get to now clock out. It's like, now what you're doing is you're building your team, and you're building people behind you that are going to take what you're doing and really get behind it, and put some muscle on it, and spread it further, and get it to people that haven't heard it before. Put money behind it, like real ad spends. That's what a label is going to bring. And so I think when you want to see that ethic, you want to know that signing is like step one. Okay, now we got our team formed. Now let's go out. Now let's go hustle. Like, are you going to be able to do the tour dates? Are you going to be able to do the interviews early, first thing in the morning, for the radio channels that are at 5 or 6 in the morning after having just driven 8 hours to the next venue? That ethic, I think, is crucial in wanting to work with bands. But the other thing is just doing what you're doing, playing shows, playing as much as possible, putting music out, trying to get on, the first of 3 bill, and doing it, and being willing to drive. I watch a lot of things that are within our genre, that we're a part of, and outside of our genre a lot, to see what are bands doing, who's making noise. And I think you will naturally grab attention of labels in general, the more work that you're doing. And so, I think the best way is to hustle. And, the craziest part is the bands that are the biggest, I would say, like the bands that are in the scene, the Peppers, the Slightly Stupids, the Stick Figures, in the reggae scene, those guys are the hardest fucking workers. Excuse my language. They tour relentlessly. And, my good friend K-Bong, like, who, plays keys for Stick Figure and has his own solo career. I mean, this dude is constantly hustling. The work never stops. And that's the part that I think eventually separates artists, bands in general, from being successful. Is, are you working to constantly working to get better, to hone your craft, to make better music, to record better, to constantly take step forwards? And the artists that are are the ones that are successful. And all of those bands that you see at the top of bills, no matter almost the genre, are hard working. And in the 21st century, 2020, you have to work even harder. So I think there's nothing that gets past that. There's nothing around the hard work. That is the hardest component of it. But if you're in it to win it and you like what you're doing, then the hard work is, that's the fun part, man. Like, I wake up every day working, opening up the emails, and I get excited because the work is the fun part, man. When bands bring music to us and we get to try to bring it to a larger platform and talk about it, to pitch it to radio and pitch it to Spotify and pitch it to Pandora, that's where I get excited, man. Like, that's the work that I like to do, and that's the work that I will not stop doing for all of our bands. So it's the same thing, but same thing for bands where they have to constantly be working too, because we all have to be working together and towards the same goal. And when you do that and the music connects, that's when things take off, and that's when it gets even more exciting. And when those kinds of things, the asks and those kinds of opportunities start coming more often and are easier because things are starting to work in tandem. Rastan, where do you see reggae in 5 years? That's a great question. I think that there is a huge, obviously everything that's coming out of Jamaica right now is huge. There's a huge, with Coffee and Protege, Chronics, that is awesome to see reggae coming out of there, and the new generation of people there making music and getting success that they deserve. I see a lot of that, and I think Coffee is going to cross over. I think she's going to take reggae to a whole nother level. I think reggae is going to continue to grow. I think California reggae is going to continue to grow. What I would really like to see is, a lot of the bands that paved the way, the legends, the Don Carloses, the Steel Pulses, the Half Pints. I want to see them get their moment in the sun too. And I mean, Steel Pulse just put out a killer album on Rootfire, and got nominated for a Grammy, and that, which is awesome. I want to see more of that. And Third World was nominated, but I want to see more of that. I want to see, the growth for not just the new artists, but as well as the old, and continuing to see, where this scene is built, was built because of what these guys, Gregory Isaacs and all of these artists did, which is just crucial, So I think it's going to continue to grow. I think the mainstream component of it is going to continue to grow because, you look at what like Stick Figure did with Red Rocks earlier this year. Unfortunately, the show didn't happen, but I think they sold Red Rocks out in like 3 days, which is something that, regardless of the genre, whether you're in pop, alternative, reggae, like these are massive numbers that I don't think the mainstream music industry is necessarily paying fully attention to, but they will. And at some point they're going to come around, because it's like, these are massive things that are happening. And as it continues to grow, I think it's going to elevate the status, which I think is awesome, because as it should. I think it, what it does for me as a vibe and as a, just personally, it deserves its time in the sun. And then also see all these bands that are out there grinding. I want to see all that elevation come up too. The Step Beat said, yeah, I think stream revenue is 5/6 for master, 1/6 for mechanical license. Yeah. So if you could cover a song and it gets streams, you keep 5/6 of the revenue. Yeah, it's something like that. For if you cover a song, what he's talking about is something called a mechanical license, which is paid out to the publisher for the songwriter of a song. And if you cover a song, anyone can cover any song at any time and put it out. You just have to pay what is called a mechanical license. And so if you went and covered, an Elvis Presley song tomorrow, they would be making money on that as you would as well, which I think is rad, because I think covers are such a rad, thing to see people take new, new fresh takes on classics. There's Niels Schroeder crushing it as usual. Thank you, brother, for tuning in, man. Niels Schroeder is the man, guys. He's been a mentor, a friend. I kind of cut my teeth working with Niels and continue to do so because we still, talk and work together all the time. But Niels and I would drive up to LA every Tuesday, from San Diego to LA every Tuesday, and then every other week, twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, for almost 4 years. So we spent a great deal of time, in the cars together, talking about, what do you think about this strategy? What do you think about this? And, I don't want to blow up your spot, Niels, but if you ever have any questions, Niels Schroeder is the guy, because no matter what the industry, he knows what's going on, and he's just such a rad bouncing board. So thank you, Niels, for all the knowledge you've imparted, man. Brendan Clemente, being a good person that people want to work with is such an underrated concept, dude. It's the thing. It's the vibe in the room. Half of touring is, a band wants to go out with another band on tour that they're going to have fun with. They're going to spend, 12 hours, however many hours a day at sound check, at load in, sound check, load out, at the show. Is it going to be fun? What's the vibe like? So that kind of stuff, man. And another quote that I heard, I don't think he said it, but I don't know if you guys listened to a guy named Colin Cowherd, but he said one time that 90% of decisions that affect you in your life are going to be made when you're not in the room. And so it helps to be a good person, and that always has stuck with me, because, people are going to talk about you, and whenever experience happens and transpires, those decisions are going to be made when you're not in the room, especially for a band. When bands are making tour decisions and who should we take out and what should we do, that's very important, and it's very underrated, man. Nothing stops being a good person, and plus it just is better for the world. I mean, like, can we just the more good people we have in the world, the better. I would love to tour, Niels, if it made sense, of course. Yeah, Article Sound System, thank you. I like the plug right there. Yeah, Cashed Out, Undercover. That's a killer album if you have heard it. Cashed Out is, they're a band on Law Records if you're not familiar. Killer guys, talk about hard workers, they, just an example of work ethic. Cashed Out got an offer last year at Cali Roots to play the acoustic stage, and they didn't have any other shows booked beyond it. And they drove out from Florida to play this one show in Monterey, California, because they knew they had an album coming out in August and they wanted to promote it, and they knew the networking that would take place at Cali Roots. They drove across the country for 2 shows because they knew it would be a good thing. It's like that kind of work ethic is the thing that's like, I'm going to go out of my way to work my ass off for Cashed Out, because they are going out of their way to constantly work and grind, which is who I want to work with, who I think, managers want to work with and agents want to work with. They want to know that their work is being met with that same thing. And Cashed Out is a great example. So great spot, Article Sound System. And great looking out to you guys too. You guys are killer too. I like the sound that you guys are doing as well. I love that Change video you guys did. It's awesome. Look up Eric Tyler and The Vibe when you get a chance, Paul. Great sounding locally here in San Diego. Will do, man. Will do. Any other music recommendations? What do you guys got in there? Bueller? Anybody? All right. Well, I'll keep going, on this thing here. Niels, I don't know if you caught it earlier, but Own the Data, that was a nod to you, man. That was something you and I always talked about it. I think, in COVID, we all have to figure out ways to get creative. And I think the bands that are going to come out of this on the other side, that are going to come out the other side are the ones that are working hard and that you can tell have been doing stuff. I think that next year, 2021, is going to be an incredible year for music and in general, and hopefully touring as well. But to see what's going to come out next year is like, I'm getting really excited about, because all of our bands, I can tell you on the label, are all working on music right now, and hearing the demos that are coming in is getting me so excited. And I know other bands, like right now, if you're not working right now, you're blowing it, because come next year, I think we're going to see some awesome music drop, which I'm really excited about. But you got to be working hard now is I think what the main thing, so 100%, the work doesn't really start until you get the deal. I couldn't agree more. And you were probably the one who taught me that, Neil. So totally just regurgitating what you've told me for the most part, man. But we got Cisco of the Flomads still watching. Shout out to Flomads. They just released a song with K-Bong a little while ago, a couple months ago, and then a song with Scarab of the Living Legends. So go check out the Flomads. They're a great sound that they're doing. Cisco was the MC of High Roots, to throw it back to High Roots again, and just a very talented guy. All right, what else I got here? Any other questions we got here, guys, or are we good here? You guys, any zingers you guys got for me? Niels, I know you got something, man. Matt, we got any scrolling up? I'm scrolling up in the questions here to see what we got. Reed, you got anything? Brendan, it's the key to success. What's the last show you attended before COVID? It would have to be either One Love in February. Was definitely the last festival. The last show, would have been something at the Belly Up. Maybe Cashed Out, Fortunate Youth, if that was around that time. I think might have been around that time as well. Was probably the last one, but if not, definitely definitely One Love, which I'm excited for 2021 as well. Hopefully that's going down in February. So anyway, well, if anybody's got any other questions, let's fly them through here. Let's go. All right, nothing. Well, all right. Well, here's your opportunity. I'm on the hot seat. Jay, the hard work is the fun part, man. That's it, dude. This is like, I'm very blessed and fortunate to work in a job that like I get up every day and want to work. If I didn't have a wife and kids, I would probably just work through the night, which would be horrible. But like, because I just constantly am working, because I want to do more, I want to learn more, I want to get better, and it's in an industry that like, it's just great. I'm backlogged on music to listen to because I have so much music to listen to, which is just an incredible thing to do. But the work is the fun part, man. And hopefully, no matter whatever grind everybody's doing or creative component in people's lives, hopefully, you have something that can be the fun part. The work is the fun part, for you, So, yeah. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, last chance. You got the hot seat here. All right. All right. Well, question for you guys: is fantasy football going on this year? Is that happening? Is the NFL season happening? Because I'm down for some fantasy football in our league again. All right. All right. Well, unless anybody's got anything else, I think that's it. Thank you so much for listening. Want a special shout out real quick. Niels, I talked about you a lot. Yasad, Brett, Kaleo, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity and trusting in me to run the label. It's an honor and a privilege, and I'm just stoked to be where I'm at and to represent the label and to go out and just make good music. And thank you to all the bands that are on the label: Tunnel Vision, Cashed Out, Vana, Sideways, Pepper, obviously, Sabotage, Kaleo's side project, Naughty Dawn, Shane Hall, all the bands that I get to work with on a regular basis. I'm stoked to be working your music, and that's an honor and a privilege as well. And we have a lot of really cool things coming up with Law. Obviously, with this comp, we're gonna be doing our part to try to shine some light on some of the reggae legends and try to tell a story about that component. So stand by for some more information with that. And we have a lot of cool stuff in store. And again, hit me up. I'm an open book, paul@law-records.com, man. Just don't spam me. All right. All right. Well, Well, that's good. That's it for that. I got to go walking with my kids. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. If there's anybody still left, man, much love, guys. Yee.